This is continuing on the Playhouse up here. These are the handrails. I always use a 2x6 for my handrails. So if you're building a deck, always do 2x6. I've got 2x6 on our deck. It's nice because it makes it so that the handrail is so wide you can put a plate on it, you can put a drink on it. They don't warp or twist as much as the 2x4s. And it's nice because while you're working, our little garden has carrots. So look at this little tiny carrot here. Thank you, Tori.
Does it taste good?
So Journey is helping with the sanding. So this board was actually pretty rough. I always sand the boards because people are going to put their hands on this. While you're standing up there, you're going to be putting your hands on the board, and there's areas like this where it's rough. That's just the way it comes from the lumber yard. I got all this wood from Lowe's. This is pre-treated. Always make sure that whatever you get that goes outside is pre-treated. These boards will tell you that they are not meant to go in the ground. The 4x6 post I have and the 4x4 posts that I have for doing the stairs and for the posts that I have that are under the Playhouse, those are treated. They're extra green, and those ones are okay to put in the ground. It'll actually tell you on the sticker that you can put them in the ground. So right now we're just getting all 4 of these boards sanded. They've already been cut on the ends, so these are all going to wrap around and butt into each other. We're cutting them all to 45 degrees, so I've already set the miter saw. If you noticed in a previous video, I was setting these boards up last night to cut them off screen, and then came back today after doing some other work. Now we're in the shade over here. Got a little bit of a breeze and not too hot, but we're just going to keep going on the sanding. So Journey is going to start with the sanding. actually going to take we've got the top all sanded on this whole board, so what we want to do is we want to roll the sander over the edge here to make it so that the edge is nice and smooth, because this is where people are going to be putting their hands anytime you're around a deck, building a deck, or like we're doing for the Playhouse. So you can see that the edge here is actually pretty square, it's pretty sharp. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that it smooths it out and rounds it out a little bit. So here's what I'm going to do. You could use a router if you wanted to. You could route these edges. I like using the sander. What this is also going to do is it's going to help the edges from splintering. So instead of these boards that are kind of rough when they come from the mill, when you pick them up from the lumber yard, wherever you go, instead of these being rough and starting to split and splinter a lot faster, when you sand them, it just makes them stay smooth a lot longer, so you don't have to worry about the splinters. So I'm just going to finish up the rest of this board. Now I'm just shifting the board to the other side so that this side's overhanging. If you come down here on the end, if you look down the end here, you should be able to see where this is all rounded now and where this one's still square. And what we're going to do is we're going to make this side on the left just as square as it is, just as round as it is on the right. But now it's nice and smooth. Down here where this knot was, I just kind of sanded into the knot with the edge of the sander a little bit just to make it so that it's not quite as rough. It's a little more smoothed out. Some of these boards have knots in them. Here's some knots right here. These are really solid knots. I'm not worried about these. If it looked like they were already starting to break out, I probably wouldn't have bought them. I don't mind too much having the knots. I think there's one board in here that doesn't have any, but even down here where these double knots are, this is strong enough that this handrail is not going to break. There's not going to be that much pressure on it. All these are going to be screwed in from underneath. I'm not going to put screws through the top, so there won't be sitting water where all the screw heads are, so they won't rot out as quickly either. But we're just going to keep sanding to work on finishing these boards up so we can flip them over and do the other sides. This board's a little bit more rough. You can actually see the pattern of the saw blade from the lumber mill when they milled this board out. The rest of these boards aren't like this. It's just this one. And at this point you could probably say, why didn't you run it through a planer? Well, I don't have a planer. But also, you could use a belt sander on something like this and it's going to take more material off faster. But as you can see, where it's rougher here, it's all smoothed out here. So this was the same down here on the end as it was here earlier. And I've already sanded all this out. So I'm just going to keep sanding it, finish this board up. And then we'll flip the top two over and then the top two will be done and then we'll work on the bottom two. top's all done. Now you can see there's only just a little bit of the saw blade where you can tell where the saw cut through here. The rest of it's all done. So I've got this board shifted over to the front now, on the front of the other board underneath it. So now I can sand the edge all the way down on this one.